come by and pick up confiscated items? Okay. My RA at my university recently confiscated some stuff of mine that she claimed was not in compliance with housing guidelines. RAs do a once-a-semester inspection of apartments to check for compliance with policy and law. The apartment handbook specifically states that RAs will not seize property, however will issue fines. But that didn't stop the two RAs from taking a guitar amp and extension cord. These items were sitting unplugged, making them in accordance. I obviously argued with my RA and her assistant quite a bit. At this point she was threatening to impose more fines for arguing and would call campus police for being disorderly. So I said whatever and let her go with intent of getting my stuff back somehow. I started by calling the housing office to express my grievance over the obvious theft. But they promptly told me to listen to my RA. I then called campus police, who said the same thing. Since the local departments reroutes calls to the campus police, I couldn't get the police to help. My RA sent me a message saying if I would swing by her door and fill out the proper paperwork, I could get it back. I said I wasn't home but would when I got back. So I knocked on her door at 4 a.m. She opened and was extremely tired and confused as to why I was there. So I told her I just got back to school after driving home and was ready to do paperwork. She handed me a paper and a packet to sign. The paper was an acknowledgement of my fine. The packet was the entire housing policy, which she told me to read through and sign that I have read. She told me I could turn them in tomorrow for my stuff, to which I responded, "No, it's okay. I don't mind." Then read through the entire 25-page packet in front of her, taking my sweet time. Then gave it back signed. After which she carried that heavy amp and cord to the door and gave it to me. The end. Based on what I read and my college experience. Day 1. Op rolled into his dorm with his electric guitar and 100 feet cable and strolled up and down the hallways like Eddie Van Halen doing the guitar solo from Hot for Teacher. What sort of minimum security prison is that place? At the schools I've lived in it was hot plates and a couple of other fire traps which weren't allowed. Not guitars. In general, if you have things stolen from you, don't call the cops if the number is just rerouting. Walk up to the cop station. Report a theft. Campus security seems more to protect the university than the students. Don't play their game. Early to mid-70s. Yeah, I'm old. Every other RA on campus seemed to be a proto-fascist. We got the good one. Rob. Rip. Looked like he was kind of a burnout, but really was very sharp. He told us early on, "I know a lot of you guys are going to smoke. And I ain't talking about tobacco. So use a little brainpower if y'all got any. Put towels under the door. Open your windows. Use a fan. And if it's really good shit, don't forget to invite me in." We loved having him as our RA. He stood up for us when we did all kinds of crazy shish. Knew what to see and what to not see. At this point she was threatening to impose more fines for arguing and would call campus police for being disorderly. This just sounds so painfully stereotypically American to me. I used to work as a full-time professional for a housing department at a very large university, and there's definitely more to this story. Either Op is a douche nozzle and had several complaints against them, or the RA has previous history with them. Either way, Op should have gone to the RA's direct boss, the residence hall director in most cases, rather than call the office. Just for future reference, I never had an issue with this with my employees, but I trained them very specifically on how to deal with who we dealt with. Athletes and high-profile students. There were quite a few midnight and some midday police calls for drugs and other illegal activities. Ha ha ha. Why not just call the cops and report a burglary? I was in RA at a student housing complex affiliated with the university. I let kids smoke weed, have pets, turn one room into a rave room. I didn't give two fucks. They paid like shit, so they got what they paid for. Should have circled the section that described how your property was in compliance while she took it anyway. Then called campus police, who said the same thing. A big part of why I got banned from our legal advice was telling people to not let up on this. When the police refuse to take a report, make a stink. They do not have the prerogative or authority to refuse your efforts to report. Get arrested before you give up your right to report a crime. What is a RA? Here the funnier things. While reading that, you should had pointed out any sections that shows the RA can't confiscate the items. Also, why didn't you go to the Dean of Student Services and ask them if the RA is allowed to change the agreement in the student's handbook? Hold on. Isn't sanctity of home a thing where you are? Here in Germany, there's quite a high bar for even the police to come into your home or apartment uninvited. For your landlord or their associates to do so would only be legal if there's exigent circumstances. Basically the same for the police. Plus they can get a court order for searches and stuff. But without either, they can't legally enter uninvited. Since the local departments reroutes calls to the campus police. Quick reminder to the folks watching from home. If you or your family are thinking about living on campus, it is really important that the local municipal police department has sole jurisdiction on campus. If campus police have any more authority than a mall security guard, you do not want any member of your family at that school. Campus police serve the university. Bad crime stats make the university look bad. Ergo, campus police are there to prevent bad crime stats. That can mean not dealing with, as OP mentions, theft, and, more importantly, sexual assault. Note that this is one of those things where it will probably not be a problem. And everyone will tell you that you're silly for thinking about it that way because they never had a problem. TLDR. Do not attend or send your kids to a school where the security guards can obstruct justice. I'm curious which university this was. I was in RA and I'd immediately get fired if they found out I took someone's stuff. My RA tried to confiscate some things from me in my freshman year of college. I just said no and slammed the door shut. I never heard another word about him confiscating my bong. I'm in RA at my university and I guarantee you I'd get fired for doing something like that. This person was definitely having a power trip, and if this is the actual university policy, the housing administration needs to review it. My college wasn't quite as draconian, but at one point in RA saw that I had a fish tank empty in my dorm room, immediately called me out, made a big deal of it, yada yada. Look, I totally get why having fish or pets is against policy, but I actually had read the resident handbook. No pets, no fish, but nothing about fish tanks. So, of course, being a college student smart ass, I called the RA out. Big hurrah ensued, but I just kept asking the RA to show me where in the rules it said I couldn't have a fish tank. Of course they could not produce said documentation. Got reported to and had a lovely meeting the next day with the director of residence life. I had to apologize, but it was noted I was correct. Technically, the best kind of correct. Oh, and the fish tank was only there for a week between getting it from home to give to a friend. I was in RA. Got a panicked phone call from my RA 2 floors down one morning about 3 a.m. Ran down. Some genius had tied his doorknob to a door across the hall. And then shoved a running hose under the door. Same RA later that year had his doorway sheetrocked in one weekend when he was away. It wasn't me that did it. But I laughed when I found out about it. Surely that's theft. They have no right to take your stuff, so you shouldn't have been fined. Fuck campus police. I'd be ringing 911.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Haircast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.